What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Visionary Rhetoric. Now, I want you to go, I want you to like, I want you to comment and share, but I also want you to subscribe to YouTube and hit the notification bell. That way, you know when I upload onto YouTube. And also, if you want to really help me out, I want you to repost on Instagram. That platform, it helps to push me out to some of the people who follow. And so if you think anything I share could be something that anybody could benefit from, just hit that repost button if you don't want to do the other three. It'd be nice. And I would love for you to do the other sharing out as well as commenting and liking. I would love for you to do those all in conjunction. But if reposting is the only thing you want to do for now, that would be an amazing help. Without further ado, we'll jump right in. I want to talk about children. I did a video not too long ago where I was talking about how the problem with the state of our children, and particularly in the education system, is not that we don't have the resources, right? It's really that we don't have vision. We're short of vision, and we don't have vision beyond behaviors that we're seeing. We don't have discernment to understand that those behaviors are not organic behaviors. Those are birthed out of specific environments that these children are coming from, that these children are coming from. So when you see children misbehave, you, you might go to, what's wrong with you? Why you acting like that? Why you acting like you ain't got no home training, right? Those are the things you might go to. But a better question would be, what are they responding to? Right? To sit back and really think, if you're a parent, if you're an aunt or uncle, if you're a godparent, if you're a teacher, if you're an administrator, to really step back and don't even engage them always, unless it's an immediate emergency where it's like, I gotta stop this right now, and then I could do all of that stuff. But if it's not right, and you're just like, the behavior is a nuisance, the behavior is just not conducive for the environment that they're displaying it, whatever it is, if it's something you can sit back and observe, really get an idea for why or what is informing the behavior rather than going to, what's wrong with you? Why don't you act right? I taught you better than that, or we said better than that, or here's these expectations, right? You can have the expectations, but that's not always going to help you get to the bottom of the issue. The real deal is that children are exhibiting behaviors based off environments that they come from. And when you understand that, then you'll understand that there needs to be a shift in the environment. And the only people who can shift the environment are those who crafted the environment, meaning the adults within the environment. Children are mirrors, right? Their behaviors or misbehaviors are not a mistake. It's a mirror. It's a mirror. And you should see it that way and be grateful for it because it gives you, as an adult, the opportunity to change things around. Now, this isn't about blaming you for children and how they act and show up in the world. It's about calling you into the responsibility, right? Because children don't choose their families, their neighborhoods, their socioeconomic statuses, their emotional climates, right? Again, going to the environments that they operate in, whether it be family, community, church, or whatever. They don't get to choose those things. The adults do. The adults create the structure, the norms, the values, right? That's what we do as adults. So therefore, anything we see from our child is a great representation of who we are, good, bad, or ugly. So we have to take on that, right? If we control the environments, we also shape the outcomes, right? The environment is the space in which the child gets to operate. The outcome is that behavior. Simple as that. Now, I want to talk about the greatest love of all, right? It's a song, we heard Whitney sing it, and sometimes you can get caught up in the beauty of the way she executes the song and the fact that she's just, if not the greatest vocalist of all time, she's top two, and in many cases not two. But when you think about the song, just that first, if you want to say bar or line, I believe that children are the future. Teach them well in. Let them lead the way. Now let's break it down. There are three things that are being said here, three different things. Children are the future, right? They are the outcome of today's systems. That's how we got to start thinking about children being the future. It's not about this like, oh, well, down the line sometime they'll be running this and they'll be leading, right? It's not about that. Not about that. It's about the fact that the environment we create today will show up later in their lives when they're adults. So we have to be intentional. That word is going to come up several times in this conversation. We have to be intentional about how we engage our children, because what we do today will show up tomorrow, right? It will show up tomorrow. It's not magic. It's not, you see a child and they end up on the wrong path. We like to make it seem like, I don't know how they end up like that. I don't know how Junior ended up like that. I don't know how she ended up that way. We ain't raised them to do that. No, you might not have told them to do that, but you modeled before them something that sent them in that direction, or you allowed them around somebody who modeled before them, somebody who you trusted, somebody who you're close with that may have not had the best practices in life. They modeled it. Somebody, an adult, a trusted person, a respected person, that's an even greater one, modeled that before them, right? They have become, or will become, what the current environment allows and reinforces. So if the future feels uncertain, it's not by happenstance, right? If the future feels uncertain, that's feedback. So I don't want to hear y'all talking about, oh, we cooked. This generation is cooked. Look at them. If they cooked, you the chef. If this generation is cooked, you the chef. And so you're just finding out you're not a Michelin star chef, right? You and Applebee's. Anyway, there's that part of it, right? So then we got to look at this. We got to teach them well. First thing you think about when you hear teaching is lecturing. Get that finger going. Tell them what is right. Tell them what is wrong. Tell them where to go. Tell them where not to go. The last thing you think about is modeling. This is why children, to me, learn more from what they watch of adults in society than what they get in school, right? In their subjects. School is important. I'm a big proponent for education. Very important. Listen to what I'm saying. They learn more from what they see, what is modeled to them in society, than they do from sitting in a classroom, hearing someone tell them information, right? What do they learn from people in society? They see and watch us model how we handle conflict, how we grieve, how we manage money, how we treat our bodies and relationships. Those are some key things. They watch us. They watch us. So if they see you cussing out everybody who you get into a conflict with, what do you think their mode of communication will be if they get in a conflict out in the street, at school, wherever? And then you get a call home, let's say at school, oh, they was cussing out the teacher. They was cussing out. Because guess what? Conflict is not like, well, you shouldn't be in a conflict with your teacher. No, conflict is something that happens in every relationship. whether it's a relationship of like a young person and a teacher, a young person and their parents, their aunt, uncle, whatever, or if it's peer to peer, whatever, right? It happens. And so if they see you, well, mom and dad, when they in conflict, they be cussing each other out. When they're in conflict, they give each other the cold shoulder. When they're in conflict, dad leaves and comes back sometimes not right away, a couple days or super late that night or a day later, or mom leaves. When they're in conflict, mom end up over in grandma's house. Right? So what are they learning? Running away. What are they learning? Knock down, drag out. We gotta fight. Every disagreement has to be a disrespectful fight. That's what they're learning. And again, we're not looking for perfection here. What I'm saying is be intentional, be mindful of what you're modeling because we have to teach them well. And that teaching is through modeling. If I tell them to keep their head up, right? If I tell my two children, my two lovely, precious children, keep your head up, stay encouraged. But all they see is their dad walking around depressive, right? All they see is me walking around doubting that anything will work out, that I don't believe, right? I believe in God. I follow Christ. That I'm worrying more than I'm praying. I'm worrying more than I'm just leaving it to God. That I think it's on me. That I'm Jireh. I got a nephew named Jireh. But that's a reminder. That's not who he is. Jehovah is Jireh. But I'm walking around like I'm Jireh. That's a part of the problem with men and our mental health. We think we the providers, when in reality, it's God providing through us. When you change the mindset and really understand that God was meant to be our provider just as much as we think we're supposed to be the provider for our families, right? God was supposed to be our provider too. That was for us. He's Jehovah Jireh for us too. But if we go about everything, oh, things tight financially, and we wearing it on our sleeve, and we concerned and worried and depressed because things ain't working out the way we imagine them to work out. And all the while, you trying to tell your kids, oh yeah, keep hope alive, believe God will come through and all this kind of stuff. But they like that. We don't see that from him. We don't see that from him. He tell us that. It sound cool. We go to church, we hear the pastor say it. The man in our house or the parents in our house don't operate that way. They don't function out of faith, right? They don't function out of faith. And that's what they see. That's what they're modeled. And that's what they'll do. And that's how they'll behave. Because that's what you're modeling. That's what I'm modeling, right? We can go to grief. Dad will never talk about Papa. He avoids it at all costs. May not understand it at 3 and 5, but they can feel it. They can feel it. My mom used to tell me all the time, you know more than you let on. And that you know more than you even understand about relationship dynamics within our house. And I did. I felt it. It's because I felt it. Doesn't matter what they said or what they decided to keep away from me or what they decided to display in front of me. I felt it. And you can't replace that. But manage your money. Manage your money. They see your habits. If you buy, everything's tight. We got all this stuff. The mindset becomes, well, we're just trying to get stuff. And then you got your kids following right after you, which does you more damage than any show could ever do you. I know some of y'all don't let your kids watch certain like Ryan's World and like Nastia, stuff like that because of the consumerism mindset. And that may be a good call. I mean, I'm not here to say anything negative about it. But honestly, they get more of that from you than they are from them. They just show them stuff they never seen before. So it's like, oh, I would love that. But in reality, they getting all that from you. Let me move on to let them lead the way, right? That doesn't mean absence, negligence. That doesn't mean that you just step back and you say, well, you're telling me to let them be themselves and be autonomous, right? It's autonomy with support. What better space to learn and develop and grow in who you are than one that is safe and geared towards protecting you under your parents? Why would you take that opportunity and say, I'm going to control and dictate to you everything about who you are, right? So, instead of saying, I'm going to learn who you are and I'm going to allow you to learn who you are. And we're going to learn together as I'm still continuing to learn who I am. Part of that is modeling to them that self-discovery is a lifelong thing. It's lifelong. You have to commit and you have to be intentional about it. So it's not absence. It's not stepping back and just letting them do their thing and being permissive. It is being more intentional around how you interact with them. Understanding that they are their own person. They have their own thoughts. Even at 3, my daughter has her own thoughts, and that's fine. That's fine. I'm glad she has me and her mother who are more than capable to help facilitate and cultivate her and help her develop in the way that she needs to develop. Right? There's some things about her that I will never understand as much as she will. But my role in helping her get to a space to have the capacity to understand herself is vital, super vital, right? And the space is created for critical thinking, right? Being able to think beyond the surface of things, identity development. Who am I? What am I called to do? Right? Where am I called to go? And having a voice. This is very important for your children to have a voice, right? I saw a guy was giving them pointers in the gym. He was more focused on the fact that he wasn't going to listen to what the guy was saying, and he was doing like a touch counter. The guy was kept like saying, "Yeah, when you're doing it the way you're doing it, you're working out here." So he would like touch his arm, but this is supposed to be a chest fly, so you're supposed to be working this out. So he was like touching him, and I don't think the guy meant any harm, right? He just didn't have the boundaries, the personal space boundaries that you should have in public, in general, actually, in relationships too. So the guy doing the video is like, yeah, I'm not listening to what he's saying, but he's making light of the fact that the guy touched him like 11 times total when he kept like touching the muscle groups that he was saying you want to target when you're doing it appropriately. So my response, and I actually left a comment. I said, one, O'Hare was right. Because the older guy and the younger guy. The younger guy was the one that was getting instruction, but the guy kept touching him. The older guy kept touching. I said, one, O'Hare was right. I said, two, never put yourself in a position where you let somebody touch you more than 2 times without saying you don't appreciate that kind of touch. And it doesn't have to be mean. Simple as you get the first touch, and once they go to that second touch, like it may happen, right? Because you're thinking like, I don't have to jump on them on the first one, but after that second one, I was like, that's when you say, hey, I want to hear what you're saying, but I don't want you to put your hands on me. I would appreciate you not doing that. I think you're giving me some good advice. So this is not any slight to that. And if they can't handle that, then that's just on them. So I said to him, I said, never let somebody touch you more than 2 times without saying anything. You are basically becoming complicit in your violation instead of just getting the video and like counting how many times he touched you. Once that second touch happened, that's when you stop and say, wait, pause. I'm gonna let you get back to what you're saying. But I just want to set the rules for engagement right now. I don't want to be touched. All right, cool. Let me explain to you without touching you. Because he just might have been a familial dude that didn't really understand what he was doing could be seen as wrong. But he obviously didn't like it and was like not going to listen to him because he did that, basically. I think that's the reason why he wasn't going to listen, but we'll never know unless he actually says something about it. But the whole point is having a voice, right? Now, to kind of jump back into the rest, you got to have a vision beyond the survival, right? So teach them well and let them lead the way. Part of it is this: if you grew up in survival and you're having children of your own, right, you have to shift your environment to one that is moving towards thriving, not just financially. That's like the least of these, but emotionally, spiritually, physical health, mental health, right? Those things I would say first. I think financially would be the fifth one. And if you get those four together, financially they'll be fine because a lot of the financial issues come in when these other areas are out of whack. So, yes, financial is important, but those four first. So you got to have a vision beyond survival. And so we have environments that are built around survival, crisis management, control. You have to instill vision, not just rules, right? We can make rules and say, don't do this so you can be safe. We can make rules and say, if things are getting heated, just walk away, right? That's crisis. That could be a form of crisis management. We can make rules that say, hey, dictate who's around you, control, so that you can avoid getting into fights and things like that, right? Try to control your environment. Watch who you hang around, watch where you go, and all that kind of stuff. But all the while, you are hurting the opportunity to expand the capacity of a child if you're only giving the rules and not a vision, right? So, what kind of human is your child? Who are they forming into? What capacities, like I mentioned, the capacities are you cultivating? That's the questions that you got to ask yourself. And so, even I'll say we need to ask ourselves whether you're a parent, a teacher, whatever role you play in the community, you have to ask yourself, how am I cultivating the children I encounter on a day to day basis, right? So, what should we be intentionally teaching is another good question to ask yourself. What should we be intentionally teaching? And that brings me to my core capacities children need, right? And I'm going to just rifle through them. They need to learn about healthy relationships, right? Not fairy tale, never been a fight in there. You know, some people I know do that. We've never fought. If you haven't fought, that means you really ain't communicating. You need to model repair, boundaries, communication, healthy living, that's physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, grief and emotional processing, teaching children how to feel without being ruled by their feelings is key. Critical thinking, not just obedience, right? But discernment, asking why. If somebody says, hey, come over here with me where nobody can see us. Why are we doing that? This could be a peer too. This doesn't have to be like adult type of thing. This like adult to a kid. This could be a peer to peer. Like, why are we doing that? Hey, these guys are talking trash. We're gonna go meet them down at the park. And why are we doing that? I don't have a problem with them. You have a problem with them, and that problem is not that deep for us to be fighting anyway. Always asking questions and being willing to stand against what they don't feel is good. Like if it's like this ain't no good, I'm standing against that. Being able to do that. Autonomy plus unity, not unity at the expense of autonomy, but me being able to come right. So the idea that I belong here, as opposed to the idea that I have to strip my autonomy and go against who I am to be a part of something, right? That's the key. But that's why you have to teach that, right? There are things that your child is that maybe don't reflect who you are, and that's okay. Stop seeing your child as um, a representation of your family in a sense of you have this idea of who your family is, and that's what you want to present to the world, but your child's doing something different. My thing was tattoos and earrings. I still like tattoos and earrings. I'm actually gonna get my ears pierced again. My dad hated them, but that's because his mom told him when he got his ears pierced that it was horrible and this, that, and the third, and he didn't like it. He hated tattoos and earrings. I don't see an issue with them. I like them. I'm going to get more tattoos and I'm going to re-pierce my ears. That's just my flow. When my child wants to do those things, particularly the ear piercing, if my son wants to do those at around 16, I don't think me and his mother would have an issue with that. I think me and his mother would have an issue with that, especially not piercing. But the tattoo thing, that is something I didn't do until I was 18. So I have that mindset that when you turn 18, you make that decision yourself, you go walk into a shop yourself, then you can go ahead and do it. I actually was older than 18 when I got my first tattoo. I think I was 20 or 21. And yeah, he would have to do that, after you graduate high school, turn 18. It's up to you. Just know, and he'll know this is a permanent decision. Unless you want to spend gobs of money to get a laser removed, this is a permanent decision. So autonomy plus unity. There are things about my children that don't directly represent who I am. But I'm not going to stifle those things unless I would only come against those things if I see them as detrimental to them in their life. Not because it doesn't make me look a certain way. Right? That's what I mean by autonomy plus unity, which would be wrapped up in belonging. But unity without uniformity is another key thing. Kind of saying the same thing, but it's a little bit different, right? So we can be united, but that don't mean I got to do everything you do, think every way you think. No. Unity is actually a space for diversity because it's an opportunity to bring different flavors and flows together in order to get the best result for all people in that group and even outside of that group if you want to think politically. But when we go into this uniformity thing, right, it's a lot like white supremacy. It's very uniform. It's very, the ideas about professionalism and proper speaking and all that kind of stuff, right? That's all uniformity, and it erodes the soul because it takes away individuality. It does. Because people will see you in one setting, right? I believe that, there may be appropriate ways to act in different settings. So, like, if you're at a country club, you're going to act a certain way. And if you're at a concert for Wu-Tang, you'll act a certain way. If you're at a concert for James Blake, you'll act a different way. If you're at a concert for Tyler, the Creator, you act a different way. Like, those are different settings and environments. If you're at a classical concert, classical music concert, orchestra, you act different ways in different environments. You dress different ways. And even to a certain degree, I'm not against challenging those norms. Why can't you go to see opera with, street clothes on? Why do I have to find a tuxedo to go enjoy an orchestra or the opera? But neither here nor there. We don't want to be uniform. We don't need to be uniform. It actually does not help us to be uniform because there's no one way to do anything, let alone dress, let alone speak, let alone get a job done, whatever that job may be. There's no one way to do that. So belonging without self-erasure sums that all up. Financial literacy, right? More so money as a tool, not an identity. Stewardship over obsession. See, the root of evil is not money. Money is not the issue. It's the love of money. The love of money, aka greed or obsession of money, with money, the love of that is how you get the transatlantic slave trade, how you get the backlash and Jim Crow laws, right? So the first thing traded on the stock market or Wall Street, chattel slaves, right? The gold standard, as Deontay Kyle puts it, slaves. We say the gold standard, gold backed the dollar, but what first backed the dollar? Slaves. And that's a result of an obsession with money, which is connected to dominance, right? Obsession with money connected to dominance. So we want to switch that to stewardship over your resources, right? We want to switch that to money is a tool, not your identity. There's a lot of things in America that we associate money with, right? We associate money with just goodness, right? We always give people with money the benefit of the doubt, and we find out with these files that these are some of the sickest people on the face of the earth, and they have the most money. It's crazy. So what do we do with that information? We were told that if they're rich, they did the right things in all categories. That's what we believe. This is why we allow them to have tax breaks. This is why we say, oh man, we just believe that if they get these tax breaks, right, that they'll hire more people and pay people fairly. That's never been the case. It's never been the case. So in closing, I want to invite you to the responsibility of hope. It's work to be done. We have to be intentional. Children don't need perfect adults. They need intentional adults. That's it. So begin to think, what kind of adult would you have needed as a child? Or what kind of adult did you have? Some of you all had wonderful parents, wonderful aunts and uncles who were the embodiment of everything I spoke about positive here. Cultivating, facilitating, right? Modeling, all those things that we spoke about. Some of y'all had that. So be that. Others of y'all didn't have that. You saw it on TV. You saw it in your community. You may need to reflect on what kind of adult did you need when you were growing up, and then figure out a way to become that adult and help cultivate, facilitate children, as well as shaping the environment around them to prepare them for the future. Now, thank you for tuning in today. I hope you found this message well. Again, like, comment, share, subscribe here on YouTube. Hit that notification bell as well. Repost, share, comment, like, message me if you got some thoughts on some of the things that I've said and the clips that you get. And I hope that you continue to enjoy the journey. So I want you to really think about the things we spoke about today. And I will see you next time. Have a great one, beloved.